So let's proceed with inventory controls. In our last session, we looked at the deterministic EOQ. So now today I want us to focus on the stochastic EOQ. You like to see that? This is where all the factors affecting, inventory cost, or the factor affecting inventory cost are uncertain, and keeps on changing, are unchanging and keeps on changing, are uncertain and keeps on changing. Full stop. This uncertainty gives rise to shortage cost. This uncertainty gives rise to shortage cost. Full stop. Two approaches are used to evaluate. Two approaches are used to evaluate this model. Two approaches are used to evaluate this model. Semicolon. A, we have what we call permitted shortages. Number B, safety stock. Let's start with the first one, A, permitted shortages. Yeah, what do you mean by permitted shortages? Now, permitted shortages, this is where the company will run out of stock intentionally. And this one will happen whereby the holding costs are too high compared with the shortage cost. When the holding cost is more than the shortage cost, yeah, that's why the company will employ permitted shortages, whereby the company runs out of stock intentionally. Good. So you have to say that. That's permitted shortages. This is where the company runs out of stock. This is where the company runs out of stock intentionally. The company runs out of stock. Intentionally. This is preferred. Where the holding cost, where the holding costs are too high. Compared with the shortage cost. E.g., sale of milk. Okay, this is what I mean, permitted shortages. Now, for example, one packet, 1 liter costs how much? 70 bob, right? If it costs 70, now we argue from the perspective of a trader. Trader is the one that is selling you at 70. But in most cases, they are taking it at a cost of how much? 50. Milk doesn't have that much profit. Not unless it's the other one. Okay. So, okay, let's just work with 60 shillings. So that means, how much is the shortage cost? Okay, how much is your profit? Yeah, your profit is 10. Now, this 10, for example, when the customer comes and then you don't have this milk, so you suffer what we call the shortage cost. How much will you lose? Now, the shortage cost is the benefit foregone when a customer fails to get the required item. So in this case, if the customer fails to get this milk, how much will you lose? 10. What if now you overstock? And you know milk is a perishable item, iharibike. How much would you suffer? 60. Now this 60 is the holding cost. But this 10 is the shortage cost. Now between overstocking euro 60 and between foregoing a profit of 10, which one is better? Yeah, that's what we call the permitted shortage. This is why the company will run out of stock intentionally. And this is because whereby the holding costs are too high compared with the shortage cost. So then we have to say that for this to hold, for this to hold, for this to hold, for this to hold, there should be retro, there should be retro. For this to hold, there should be retro or no competition. There should be retro or no competition. And the customer are willing to wait. And the customers are willing to wait. And the customers are willing to wait. And the customer are willing to wait, i.e., back order. Back order. When we explain that, back order is a delayed delivery. Back order is a delayed delivery. Back order is a delayed delivery. Full stop. Then notice that there are two types of back order. There are two types of back order. There are two types of back order. Semicolon, Roman 1. Fulfilled back order, fulfilled back order, fulfilled back order. You can see that. This is where the item the customer fails to get, and this is where the item the customer fails to get, the item the customer fails to get is noted down and ordered, is noted down, is noted down, is noted down and ordered, is noted down and ordered. Then Roman 2, unfulfilled back order, unfulfilled back order, unfulfilled back order. You know, explain that. This is where the item the customer fails to get, this is where the item the customer fails to get, the item the customer fails to get is never recorded, is never recorded, is never recorded, is never recorded. And it's upon the customer to keep on checking. And it's upon the customer, and it's upon the customer to keep on checking. It's upon the customer to keep on checking, to keep on checking. Yeah, that was number A, the permitted shortages. Now let's look at safety stock. Safety stock. It's also known as the buffer stock. Buffer stock. You see that? This is the additional quantity of an item. This is the additional quantity of item. Additional quantity of item above the normal demand, above the normal demand, above the normal demand that a company held, that a company held, that a company held, that a company held in order to reduce, in order to reduce, the company held in order to reduce the risk of stock out, in order to reduce the risk of stock out, stock out, stock out, the risk of stock out. Full stop. It's a pride, it's a pride, it is a pride, it is a pride where the holding cost it's applied where the holding costs are insignificant. Holding costs are insignificant compared with the shortage cost. 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 To say that there are two types of shortages. There are two types of shortages. There are two types of shortages. One, we have known shortages, and number two, we have unknown shortages. So now let's start with number one, known shortages. Known shortages, so I have to say that. For this to be applied, for this to be applied, comma, the following five items need to be known. The following five items need to be known. The following five items need to be known. Number one, holding cost per unit per year. Holding cost per unit per year. Holding cost per unit per year. Number two, shortage cost per unit per year. Shortage cost per unit per year. Shortage cost per unit per year. Number three, number of annual orders. Number of annual orders. Number of annual orders. Number four, current reorder level. Current reorder level. Current reorder level. And lastly, number five, demand during lead time. Demand during lead time. Demand during lead time. And its probability of occurrence. Demand during lead time and its probability of occurrence and probability of occurrence. Yeah, for it to be a known shortages, you must be having those five items. Number one, we are saying that is the holding cost per unit. One is the holding cost per unit. And number two is the shortage cost per unit. And how do you get the shortage cost? Now, the shortage cost is the benefit forgone or the profit, which will be taking the selling price minus the variable cost, not the variable cost, but the purchase cost. Selling price minus the purchase cost minus the holding cost on average. Then number three, you get the number of annual orders. And you see that, how do we get the number of annual orders? So take the annual demand over EOQ. Then number four, you also need to get the current reorder level. And number five is demand during lead time and its probability of occurrence. Good. So I want us to do illustration. December 2010, question 2B. December 2010, question 2B. So you're told that the management accountant has provided the following information from the store. So we have the estimated annual demand, that's our D. We have the purchase price per unit is 100 shillings. Selling price per unit, 155 shillings. Lead time is 5 days. Holding cost per unit is 20, so you need the holding cost. So holding cost is 20. Economic order quantity is 1200. That's the EOQ. So that means you can use that information to determine the number of annual orders. To get the number of annual orders, you take annual demand, you divide by EOQ. So our estimated annual demand we have is 12,000. Then EOQ, the economic order quantity is 1200. So that means per annum we make how many orders? 10 orders. Also, you can be able to determine the shortage cost. Shortage cost is the benefit for a goal. Yeah, so you take the selling price, and you have the selling price per unit, we are selling at 155. You minus the purchase cost. The purchase price is 100, so that you determine the profit. How much are you making as a profit? 55. But for that 55, you have to factor in the holding cost, the benefit for a goal also. You take the holding cost on average. And the holding cost we have is 20 divided by 2, that is 10. So that means for each item the customer fails to get, the company loses 45 shillings per unit. Additional information. The company operates a 5-day week. Number 2, the number of X units sold with the corresponding number of days are as follows. We have the number of units and the number of days. Now, the number of units, remember you're told that, and then you're given the number of days. So that's what you call the daily demand. Then you have the number of days. So you can convert the number of days into probability. Now, can you add the total? Add the total number of days. See that we are evaluating for how many days? One that 5. Now, kindly add it in your question paper. I mean, write it in your question paper. And 35. Yeah, so we shall use that one now to determine the demand during lead time and its probability. Number 3, the company currently uses reorder level of 250 units. So the current reorder level is 250 units. The company currently uses a reorder level of 250 units of X and does not carry any safety stock because of the guaranteed delivery time. Number 4, the company intends to fully satisfy its customer demand as well as minimize the associated cost. Required. Annual stock out cost using the reorder, the current reorder level. Yeah, stock out cost is the shortage cost, and that's what we have computed is 25. Selling price minus the purchase cost, minus the holding cost on average. Number 2, advise the management on the reorder level that would enable the company to fully satisfy its customer demand with the minimum associated cost. So how do we determine that? So for it to be a non-shortage, remember I said that you must be having the 5 items. That's the holding cost, shortage cost per unit, number of annual orders, current reorder level, as well as demand during lead time and its probability. Demand during lead time and its probability. And how do we get this? So to get demand during lead time, you take the daily demand, you multiply by the lead time. So that we determine, if you determine the daily demand, and then you have the lead time. So if it takes 5 days, you're able to determine how much will be the demand for that 5 days. So now let's do that. So we have the demand. Next, number 2, we have the number of X units sold with the corresponding number of days. So those are the daily demands are as follows. So you take 30. Those are daily demand times 40. Sorry, not times 40. Yeah, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Then you multiply by the lead time. How long does it take? The lead time is 5 days. So you're given 5 days. And that's how we get our demand during lead time. Here we have it's 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, 450. We need demand during time and its probability. So you get the probability. So to get the probability, we use the frequency of the number of days. So it's 10 days, 20, 50, 30, 15, 5, 5. You divide by the total number of days. Was it 135? Yeah, you divide by 135. Now give me into 2 decimal places. The first one you get 0 point? Huh? 15. 0 0.37. 0.22. 114. Good. I think now we have everything that we need. Good. Now the question was, number one, we are to determine the annual stock out cost using the current reorder level. Number two, you advise the management on the reorder level that will enable the company to fulfill, to fully satisfy its customer demand with minimum associated cost. So how do you come up with that? So you come up with an analysis table. Kindly pay attention here. Come up with something like that, whereby we'll have our new reorder level. Once we determine the new reorder level, we determine the amount of safety stock. Safety stock, that means we have additional stock. It will increase our holding cost. And then from there, we determine the shortage cost. How will we be getting the shortage cost? So to get the shortage cost, you take the shortage per order cycle. You multiply it by the number of annual orders. Then you multiply by the shortage cost per unit. Shortage cost per unit. That's how we get our total cost. That's how we get our total cost. So kindly pay attention here. So how do you analyze this? So in this case, we want to identify the level of the new safety stock or the new reorder level. So how much is our current reorder level? Yeah, the current reorder level is 250. So if it's 250, so whenever you're given the current reorder level, it must be among the demand during lead time. And this is the minimum we can, because we are not carrying any safety stock. So that means you can order less than currently what you're ordering. You want to determine the safety stock. For it to be safety stock, that means you must order more than that. So this is where now you analyze from. You identify the current reorder level. From your analysis, you take the minimum you should order is 250. So that means our new reorder level, we start evaluating from 250. Now we need the safety stock. Now the current reorder level is 250. If you decide to order also to maintain the same 250, how much will you carry as safety stock? 0. Yeah, so that means in this case, you will not be having any safety stock. Therefore, how much will be the incremental holding cost? It's also 0. What about shortage? Now you can experience shortage. Now, how to determine the shortage? First of all, determine the shortage per order cycle. And this is how you argue. Now you have decided to order 250. What if now demand increases to 300? Because there's possibility, right? What if demand increases to 300? That means you run short by how many units? 50, correct. And what's the probability that the demand will be 300? It's 0.22 plus. If you order 250, demand can also increase to 350. That means you run short by how many units? 100. And what's the probability the demand will be 350? 0.11 plus. If you order 250, demand can also increase to 400. You run short by how many units? 150. And the probability that the demand can increase to 400 is how much? 0.4. And lastly, if you order 250, demand can also increase to 450. You run short by how many units? 200. and the probability of that happening is 0. Yeah, that's what we call the shortage per order cycle. Then you multiply by the number of annual orders. In 1 year, we are making how many orders? Yeah, the orders. Is it 10? Good. And then you multiply by the shortage cost per unit. For every 1 unit, how much the shortage cost? Yeah, 45. Good. Give me that. How much is that? You're getting 16,200. So now to get the total cost, the holding cost was 0, shortage cost is 16,200. So the total is 16,200. I will repeat the same process now for the second one. Now from 250, now you order, we increase now to 300. So our new reorder level now will be 300. We say that the minimum you can order is 250. So you try for 300, 350, 400, up to 450. Now from 250 now, what if we order 300? If you order 300 and current reorder level is 250, that means we'll be having a safety stock of how many units? 50. Now this 50, it will lead to incremental holding cost, whereby the holding cost per unit is 20. You multiply by the number of units. So in this case, we have 50 more units, and the holding cost per unit is 20, and you get an amount of 1,000. So that's the incremental holding cost. What about the shortage cost? Very simple. Now we have ordered 300. That's our new reorder level. If you order 300, demand can also increase to 350. You run short by how many units? And what's the probability that demand will be 350? 0.11. If you order 300, demand can also increase to 400. You run short by how many units? And the probability of that happening is 0.04. If you order 300, demand can also increase to 450. You run short by how many units? 150. And the probability of that happening is 0.04. That's how you get the shortage per order cycle. Then you multiply by the number of annual orders, which is 10. You multiply by the shortage cost per unit, which is 14. So how much is that? $69? 75. Then you add this, you get an amount of 79. That's the total cost. From 300, now we increase to 350. Now, our new reorder level is 350. If you decide to order 350, and our current reorder level is 250, you'll be carrying a safety stock of how many units? 100. Then you determine the incremental holding cost. 100 more units, and the holding cost per unit is 20. So the incremental holding cost will be 2,000. What about the shortage? If you order 350, there is probability the demand can increase to 400. You run short by how many units? 50. And the probability of that happening is 0. If you order 350, also demand can increase to 450. You run short by how many units? 100. With a probability of 0.04. It cannot exceed beyond that. Then you multiply by the number of annual orders times the shortage cost per unit. Got 27? And then you add the holding cost, that total will be 7. From 350, now we have 400. Our new reorder level is 400, and our current reorder level is 250. That means you'll be having a safety stock of how many units? 150. The incremental holding cost is 150 times 20, and you get an amount of 3,000. Shortage. If you order 400, demand can increase to 450. You run short by how many units? 50. And the probability of that happening is 0.04. Then you multiply by the number of annual orders times the shortage cost per unit. 900. So therefore, our total cost will be an amount of 39. The last three, from 400 go to 450. 450 minus the current year level is 250. The safety stock will be 200. 200 units, holding cost 20, you get an amount of 4,000. What about the shortage? If you order for 50, it's unlikely demand will exceed that, right? So therefore, you cannot suffer any shortage cost. So therefore, the total will be an amount of 4,000. And then we see that for inventory control, the base case or the major objective is to minimize on inventory related costs. Now look at the total cost. Where do we have the minimum? Okay, give me the minimum cost. That 900. What does that mean? So that means this is what you need. So is that the new reorder level should be 400 with a safety stock. Safety stock of 150. Then they can also ask the probability of stock out. Probability of stock out. Yeah, what's the probability that the customer can miss? So in this case, we have decided our new reorder level is how much? 400. 400. But there's probability demand can increase to 450. And what's the probability? 0. If you could have selected 350, and now you want the probability of stock out, you add the probability of the remaining two, 0.04 plus 0.04. Good, so you can copy that. Sorry, November 2017, question 5B. November 2017, question 5B. November 2017, question 5B. They have said that we must be having 5 items. One is the holding cost per unit per annum. Number 2 is the shortage cost per unit per annum. Number 3 is the number of annual. Number 4, current reorder level, as well as demand during lead time and its probability. So you told that Trans Limited supplies a product branded BBG. Although the annual demand for BBG is high, it varies considerably. The demand during lead time and the associated probability are as follows. So in this case, we already given this, so you don't have to compute. Demand during lead time with its probability, we already given. Additional information. Trans Limited places 5 orders annually. So the number of orders is 5 orders per annum. The ordering cost per order amount to 6,000. So in this case, they have added the ordering cost. It's okay. The carrying cost amount to 1,000. What is carrying cost? Carrying cost means what? Holding, correct. Holding cost, which is 1,000 per unit. The estimated stock out cost is 5,000 per unit. Stock out. Stock out is what? Yeah, that's the shortage cost. Stock out is the shortage. That means whenever the customer fails to get what he wanted, you lose 5,000. The reorder point is 850. So the current reorder level is 850. The lead time is 12 working days. So we have the 5 items, including the demand during lead time. Now, our current reorder level is 850. So can you go where you have the demand during lead time? Make sure you spot 850. Can you see it? Yes, it must be there. So now that's what I want. 850, 900, 950, 1,000, 1050, 1,100. Then I need their probabilities. 850, the probability is 0.05, 0.05 also, right? Then we have 0.04, 0.03, 0.03, and 0.02. That's what I needed. Then from there, we come up with an analysis table. So here we have our new reorder level. Once we have the new reorder level, we determine the amount of the safety stock. Then we determine the incremental holding cost. And then also in this case, they have given us the ordering cost. That one will be constant. So you have the ordering cost. Then from there, we factor in the shortage cost. You see that? How do we get the shortage cost? Take the shortage per order cycle. Multiplied by the number of annual orders. You multiply by the shortage cost per unit. Then we get the total cost. So we start with the current reorder level. Now our current reorder level we have is 850. Now if our current reorder level is 850 and we decide to order still 850, how much will be our safety stock? 0. That means there is no additional holding cost. Ordering cost will be constant. How much is the ordering cost per order? 6,000. And you're making how many orders annually? 5. So the total will be 30,000. Good. So that one will be constant, regardless of the number of units. Then we need the shortage cost. You take the shortage per order cycle. And how do you determine that? The current unit is 850, but the demand can also increase to 900. You run short by how many units? 50. And the probability of that happening is 0.05 plus. If you order 850, demand can also increase to 950. You run short by how many units? 100. And the probability of that is 0.04. If you order 850, demand can also increase to 1,000. You run short by how much? 150 with a probability of 0.03, 200, 0.03, 250, probability of 0.02. So that's the shortage per order cycle. Then you multiply by the number of annual orders. 5 orders. Then you multiply by the shortage cost per unit, which is an amount of. So give me that. $550,000. Then you add the ordering cost. So you get a total of 500. From 850 now, we increase to 900. Now from 850 to 900, the safety stock is how many units? Yeah, an additional 50. So that one increase the holding cost 50, and the holding cost per unit is 1,000. So it will be an amount of 50,000. Ordering cost is 6,000 per order, 5 orders. So that will remain to be 30. Shortage. 900, demand can increase to 950. You run short by how many units? 50. And the probability of that happening is 0.04. 900 to 1,000, you run short by how much? 100, and the probability is 0. From 900 to 1050, run short by 150, and the probability is still 0.03. And lastly, from 950, demand can increase to 1,100. You run short by how many units? 200 with a probability of 0.02. Then you multiply by the number of annual orders, which is 5, and the shortage cost per unit is 5,000. Sorry? That's 7,500. Then you add 80. Get for 17,500. From 900, now we go to 950. Current year level is 850. If you order 950, you'll be carrying a safety stock of how many units? 100. So 100, the holding cost per unit is 100. It's 1,000. You'll get 100,000. Ordering cost, that one does not change. 50 times 0.03, 100 times 0.03, 150 times 0.02, multiply by 5, you multiply by 5. You're wondering what I have done. It's all about experience. You see what I'm doing? You just eliminate the first one. You remain with the rest. And then you give me the answer right. 187, 500. And then you add 130. 17,500. From 950, now we have 1,000. So you take 1,000 minus 850, the safety stock will 150. So it's 150 with a holding cost of 1,000. So you get 150,000. Here you get is an amount of that. Here you get is 50 times 0.03, 100 times 0.02, times 5 times 5,000. It's a, and then you add 180. And from 1,000, 200. 200 times 1,000, you get 200,000. That one does not change. Now let's do this together. If you order 1050, demand can increase to. So that means you run short by how many units? 50. And the probability of that happening is 0. Simple. Times 5 times 25,000. 25,000. Then you add to that 1,000. Lastly, from 1050, now we have 1,100. So 1,100 minus 850, a safety stock of 250. So 250 times 1,000, you get 250,000. That 1,000. From 1,100, the demand is unlikely to exceed that. So that means the probability of shortage is 0. So how much will be water cost? 280. You take the minimum. The minimum is 255. So therefore, no that. So number one, our new reorder level will be 1050 with a safety stock of 200 units. What's the probability of stock out? Yeah, probability of stock out. You see, in this case, we have decided we order 1050. So the demand also can increase to 1,100 with a probability of 0.02. Yeah, that's the probability that we can experience shortage. Now, what was the question required? Advise the management of Trans Limited on the amount of safety stock to be maintained. We have it's 200. Then number 2, determine the probability of stock out. And you get your 16 marks. So you can copy. I want to give you an assignment. I want you to go and try this question. So now, can you open that question I have given you as an assignment, November 2015? Question 2B. November 2015, question 2B. So that I give you a hint on where to start. So the following data related to Mamboleo Limited estimated usage of raw material for the month of December. So you have the usage, we have the probability. Additional information. Stock outage cost the company 80 shillings, that's the shortage cost. Average monthly holding cost is estimated at 10. Yeah, so that means the whole cost, you'll take 10 times 12. Remember I said that holding cost per unit per annum. So what you're given is per month. So you take per month, you multiply by 12, you get 120. Number 3, the lead time is 4 days. Item of 4 days is required for ordering the raw material. Economic order quantity for raw material is 16,000 units every 30 days. That's EOQ. Give me the number of annual orders. The number of orders. You get 19. Now listen up. If you are computing, you are wrong. If you are computing. And that's why I say that let's do it together. Hiyo ni Kiingereza. Can you read number 4 again? The EOQ of material is 1,600 units for every. So we order after 30 days. So what about 1 year? Oh. If we order 1,600 after every that day, see that's every month. So in 1 year, we'll make how many orders? Where? It's 12 orders. Simple. 12 orders. If we are ordering after 30 days, in short, we are making an order after every month. In 1 year, how many orders will we make? Yes. Give me the current order level. That's why now you take the daily demand times 8. How much is our daily demand? Yeah, it's 1,600, right? You divide 30. And that is not what you are given there, because what you are told that's the EOQ of raw material for every 30 days. So that means you divide by 30. Then lead time is how many days? 4 days. How much is that? 213 point? Yeah, we say that for the units, you always round up. So our current order level is 214. Then we also need demand during lead time and its probability. But that one we have it. Can you see it? Yes. Now, can you see 214? I told you that the current order level should be among your demand during lead time. Can you see it? No, it's not there. It's not as simple as you had thought. Can you read that question again? Grammar. The following data related to Mamboleo Limited, estimated usage of raw material for the month. Can you add in the month? If you don't get that, you are done for the month of December. So what you're given the usage in units, those are the monthly, those are for the month. Are you together? Good. So for example, the first one, it will take 14. That's a monthly demand. So what we need is the daily demand. So you divide by that, you multiply by, then the second one, you do the same, 1520 over 30 times 4. The other one will be 1,600 over 30 times 4. Now this is why you get these 214 now. and so on, and so on, and so on. Good. So that's all about known shortages. And we go to number 2, unknown shortages. Unknown shortages. Now, let me explain something. Now, the difference between the known and unknown shortages. For known shortages, we see that you must be having the 5 items. Now, for unknown shortages, you are not sure. So therefore, you are uncertain. And in this case, you use the probability concept of normal curve. Yeah. This is what we call the normal distribution, whereby here we have the X bar. X bar is the average, of which in our case is what we call the current reorder level. For example, the first question we had done, how much is the current reorder level? The first we had done, was it 250? Was 250. Then for you to get the safety stock, it should be above the average. So here we need to compute what we call X1. Our X1 will be our new reorder level. And based on the question we had, the first question we had done, how much is the new reorder level? It was an amount of 400. But demand can also exceed 400. Remember giving you the probability of stock out. Now, this is what we call now the risk level. But the unshaded one is what we call the service level, whereby the company can be able to deliver all the required demand by the customer without failure. But in case now demand exceeds this, that's what we call the risk level. Now, the difference between the current reorder level and the new reorder level, that's how you determine the safety stock. And if you look at the first illustration, how much is the safety stock? Was it 150? 150. Of which it's 400 minus 250. Then I take you back to the concept of normal distribution. Normal distribution, the probability is 1, whereby it's symmetrical. It's divided into 2. This is 0.5. This is 0.5. And how do we standardize? To standardize, you get what we call Z table, whereby you take X1 minus X bar over standard deviation. Standard deviation, yeah, is the risk due to uncertainty. So in this case, our focus will be on how to determine this, our new reorder level. Can you be able to make this one the subject? Now, this is a normal formula for normal distribution. Z is equals to X1 minus X bar, so that you get the difference, you divide by the standard deviation. Now, in this case, our focus will be on determining the new reorder level, X1. Can you be able to make X1 the subject? Yeah, so to get X1, it will be equivalent to X bar plus Z standard deviation. And this is the safety stock. We write something. Something right to say that. Unknown shortages. If the shortage is unknown, if the shortage is unknown, comma, the company establishes the service level. The company establishes service level. Also, when you explain service level, you have to say that service level is the proportion of time. Service level is the proportion of time. Service level is the proportion of time over which the company is able to supply, all the required units without delay. Supply all the required units without delay. All the required units without delay. Full stop. The proportion of time within which the proportion of time, the proportion of time within which the company can experience shortage, in which the company can experience, in which the company can experience shortage. Company can experience shortage is known as the risk level. 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 The concept of normal distribution, the concept of normal distribution, the concept of normal distribution, the concept of normal distribution will be applied, will be applied, will be So now let's do an illustration. Handout question 6, page 2. So you're told that is sound okay now? So we are told that we're doing question 6 of page 2. A company has a desired service level of 92. So now let me do that. So a normal distribution. Now here we have the X bar, which will be our current reorder level. Then X1, which will be our new reorder level. If the demand exceeds reorder level, this is what we call the risk level. But this is what we call the service level. So you're told that, and then here we need to factor in the standard deviation. A company has a desired service level of 92%. So this is 92%. So that means the probability of stock out is how much? Yeah, it's 8%. Therefore, what's the probability of the safety stock or proportion of safety stock? Now, you said that the safety stock is the difference between the current reorder level and new reorder level. This way you get the new, not the new, but the safety stock. Safety stock, of which you know that all these, the probability is 0.5. So if you want to determine the probability of safety stock, so you need to get what we call Z, but Z is the number, not the probability. So you'll take 0.5, you eliminate the 8%, 0.08, and you get the probability 0.42. Now this 0.42 is the probability, but what we need is Z, the normal distribution. How do we get? So to get Z, you read inside the table. Can you go to your past paper? There is the normal distribution table there. Look for the normal distribution table. Yeah. Can you go to May 2014? May 2014. On the last page, there is a normal distribution curve. I want to show how to read that normal distribution curve. Yeah. There is something like that. That's what we call the normal curve. Are we there? So for that normal distribution curve, now what we read inside the table, we read, okay, we compute Z, of which Z is X1 minus X bar over standard deviation. So what we get here is Z. Now we use this Z to read from the table so that we get the probability. For example, if you get a Z of maybe 2.06. So to get the probability, now you have 2.0, then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's how you read the probability. So 2.06. But in this case, what we have here, this is the probability. Are you together? So now you want to go backward to get its Z. So how do we get Z? So to get Z, you read inside the table. So inge uko ndani. Now look for me 0.42. Not necessarily 0.42. A figure that is close to 0.42. Then you give me 1.41, but should exceed at least kidogo. So even below or above, it's okay. Now, when you get 0, can you see that? 0.4, it's okay. Now we can work with the, can you see 0.4207? Yes, now you read the coordinates. The coordinates is 1.4. Yes, so it's 1.41. That's why we have now 0.4207. So our Z now it's 1.41. Do you see how you get Z from probability? And then Z, you use Z to get the probability. We can also use probability to go back to Z by reading it inside the table. And that's what we have done. It's well understood. Now let's go back to the question. So you're told that a company has a desired service level of 92%, and the demand during lead time has a probability, the following probability distribution. So we have the units and the probability of occurrence. Required the optimal safety stock. Now, whenever you're given the service level, know that that is our known shortages. So first of all, you need the current reorder level, or X bar, which is the same as current reorder level. That's the average. So of which we have the average demand. How can you get that? X bar is the average. So what you can do, you can take 10 times 0.18, 15 times 0.02, like that. Okay, let me make it easier for you. We have the units, let's X, and then we have the probability. So we have 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. We have the probability 0.18, 0.22, 30, 12, 09, 09. So to get the average, that's the expected. You take 10 times that, all that. So to get this, you take X times P. For example, this one will be 1.8, and this one will be, sorry? 3.3. 3.3, this one will be 6, this one will be 3. 3, this one will be 2.7, this one will be 3.15, and that's how we get the X bar. Now add the total so that we get the averages. So, sorry? 19 point? Remember, is the average units. For the number of units, hakuna 0.3 units. So an average is 20. So that means the current average is 20. We also need standard deviation. To get the standard deviation, you take X minus X bar square probability. You add all of them, then you get the square root. We have our X's here. So we have 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30, 35. You compare against the average. The average is 20. Then you square so as to eliminate any negative times the probability of occurrence. This was the probability, 0.18, 0.22, 0.30, 12, 09.09. Don't get the square root. And the first one is 18. 18. 5.5. This is 0. The last one is 20.25. This is 3. 9. Now give me the total. $55.75. Then you get the square root. You get 7.75. Now you see that to get Z, that's the normal distribution. It's X1 minus X bar over standard deviation. And in this case, our focus, we need to determine the new reorder level, which is our X1. We have said that X1 is our new reorder level. So you make it the sub. So to get X1 will be the average. Then we add the safety stock. How do we get the safety stock? Plus Z standard deviation. See if you cross multiply Z times standard deviation. So X bar is the average. So the average we have is 20. How much is it? Yeah, 1.41. Standard deviation is 7.5. So therefore it will be 20. 1.41 times 7.5. I just need this. 11. How to get? So that means our new reorder. Yeah, so this will be that one. So how much will be your safety stock then? Yeah, safety stock is Z star deviation, which is an amount of 11. Or you can take 31 minus 20. And I think we have answered the question. Yeah, the question was, yeah, the optimal safety stock. Then you'll do number 2 as your assignment. So copy that. I want us, we still do another illustration so that you understand. Open November 2016. Open. SL Limited manufactures and stock component Q, which is used as an input material in another department within the organization. The past data on component Q is as follows. So average demand per day is 130 units. So that's the daily demand. Average production lead time is 5 days. The frequency distribution of actual demand during lead time is given below. So we have the actual demand and the frequency. So the frequency, we use that one to determine the probability. Now, can you add the total frequency? Add the total frequency. Can you write that in your question paper? Question paper, that the total frequency is 86. Then you are told that the company target an 85 service level during lead time. Oh, we have something like that. Now here we have the X bar, which is the current reorder level, which is the average. So our focus will determine X1, which will be our new reorder level. And then the company targets an 85. That the service level, the probability of stock out will be how much? Yeah, so that's now what we call the risk level, which will be 15%. Therefore, the probability of safety stock. Now, this is the safety stock. How much is the probability of the safety stock? Yeah, so you see, all this is 0.5. So to get Z, so take 0.5, you eliminate the risk level of 15%. So that means the safety stock level will be 0.35. But now this 0.35 is the probability. But you don't need probability, we need Z. So to get Z, you read it inside the table. Inside the table. So let's use the normal distribution table. Use the normal distribution table. Zero 0.35. 1.0. 1.0. Now the question was, the reorder level, you get 9 marks, and the safety stock level, 3 marks at top 12 marks. So this formula should be at your fingertips. To get new reorder level X1, it's current reorder level plus Z standard deviation. That's how to get that. So we need current reorder level, the average. We have Z, which 1.04. You also need the standard deviation. How do we get that? So we have the actual demand during lead time. So to get X, so you see in ranges. So the first one you take 399, you divide by 2. How much is the average demand? You get 350. The other one will be between 400. The other one will be and then you have the probability. So use the frequency to get the probability. So the first one is 0, 86. The other one will be 16 over 86. Then we have 25 over 86, 14 over 86, 8 over 86, 3 over 19, 2, 3, 0.29, 16, 09, 03. Good. So we have the units, we have the probability. So we need to get X bar is a summation of the units and the probability. 350 times 0 you get? 450 times that you get how much? 85.5. Sorry? 126.5. 188.5. 120. 70. And the last one is 28 point. Now let's add the total. We add the total. $620. Let's work with 626. Then that's our current reorder level. It's 625. And then you get a division with X minus X bar square probability summation. Good. So like this one, you take 350. Here we had 450, 550, 650, 850, 950. No. So now this is 350, 450, 550, 50, 950. Then you compare the actual number of units against the average, 625. 626. You square times the probability of the currents. This is 0, 0.19, 23, 29, 16, 09, 03. $58 point? 885. Mm-hmm. 30? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sorry? Are you sure? 94.6. This one? 24.60. Sorry? 4516. Sorry? 95? When no, when you say 950, 49. It's okay. Good. Now give me the total. 18? 188. Now get the square root. 130? 135. Good. Yes? This one. What 650 is? 167? Ah. Hmm. Sorry? First of all, get the total. 505, eh? The square root, you get one? One back. Good. So, or which is plus Z standard deviation. And this Z standard deviation is what we call our safety stock. So X bar is our current reorder level, which is 626 plus, we have our Z. Our Z is 1.04. Standard deviation is 132. So this one will be 626 plus 138. 138. So how much is the total? 760? Yeah, so that means our so you can copy now. So we shall pick up from there in our next session.